He is none other than Gary Sheffield. How are you, Gary?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. What was Pedro like watching Big Papi say farewell? What was it like sitting next to him last night?
Well, it was kind of emotional for him. He really wanted to see Big Papi play some more, like we all do. He meant so much to the game. Just not having him around anymore, the game is going to be missing, an ambassador of the game, especially the city of Boston. I mean, he's just a phenomenal person. He's a larger-than-life personality, and you just love being around him.
Yeah, I mean, and the one thing that I take away, one of the many things I take away, I shouldn't just say the one thing, Gary, is the immense respect the people whose behinds Ortiz kicked for as long as he did, saying their farewells to him on Twitter, all the people that have reached out to him after he dominated in many ways. Why do you think that is?
Well, Big Papi is one of those guys where I think around the era that he became popular, you don't fraternize with your opponents and things like that before games. I'm from the old school where you don't embrace people around the cage. You don't even really look at them or talk to them. And he was one of the first guys that I can recall that embraced everybody, not just Latino players or black players or whatever. It was everybody. I mean, he was just warm and he just put that bear hug on you. And it's like, even if he didn't come up to you and embrace you, guys was running up to him to embrace him. And he started that whole embracing each other before batting practice and then going out and competing. And before you know it, I don't know if that was a setup or not. He was, buttering you up just to go out and beat the brains out of something. Yeah. But it seemed to work for Big Papi.
So what would have happened if you were in the cage, let's just choose anything, with the Marlins, Dodgers, Yanks? I guess you were part of the teams that Papi began to pound on. Brewers, Padres. I mean, what would happen if somebody like him had come up to you in the cage back then with you, Gary?
Well, back then when we had Big Don Baylor and Dave Parker, that wouldn't have been good. Those guys didn't mess around. When they saw you talking to another teammate, opponent, another team, they would let you know. I had teammates to say something and say, hey, what are you doing fraternizing with this guy? And that's how we learn as young players not to fraternize with other players.
Gary Sheffield of TBS joining me here, and I know you've got the ALCS, and you'll be there with Pedro and Jimmy Rollins and Casey Stern for pregame coverage on Friday night at 7 Eastern for Game 1 of the Indians and the Blue Jays. But I want to talk about what's going down in Dodger Stadium today. I mean, the Dodger fan base as well, very well. You were here from 98 to 01. It's Kershaw time. It's another time where he's got a season on the line and the ball in his left hand. What do you expect from him today, Gary?
We talked about that immensely during the sessions that we have, and I just feel like I don't think they should push him too hard and bring him back on short notice after the back injury he had. It's one thing when he's fresh and he's the Kershaw that we all love and seen over the years. But when you have a back injury, you have to be careful with that, because a back injury, you hurt that again, it can lead to an arm injury. And that's the only thing that we don't want to see happen. We want to see good baseball. We want to see the best on the mound. But if he's healthy enough to do it and he says he's okay, then I'm cool with it. But it should be an unbelievable match. I know he's going to go out there and compete. And, the way that where they're playing, they're going to need him to go out and pitch a gem.
But how do you know, if you're Dave Roberts, to use the line of somebody who once revoked L.A. privileges, that it's not pride messing with your mind right here, that it's not just pride saying, okay, I see what the guy up north with the left hand does in closeout games, or at least games on the line for my season in Madison Bumgarner. I'm going to take this ball. It doesn't matter if I feel the tweak or not. I'm going to take it. How do you suss that out if you're the manager?
That's a hard position to be in. I wouldn't want to be Dave Roberts at this moment. The city is dependent on you to make the right call. They want to see Kershaw. But as a manager, you have to police your players from themselves. And I know Kershaw is one of those guys. He's a bulldog. He wants the ball. And his manager really loved the fact that he wants the ball. But you got to look at the longevity of this thing here. How much of a setback would this hurt just this whole franchise if he ever goes down again.
Gary Sheffield joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So when it's all said and done, do you think it will be Cubs Nationals? Which team do you think has a chance to climb out of this hole in their respective division series in the NL?
Well, that's the way I had it early on. I had Cubs Nationals because one thing I said with the Dodgers is that they're in a juggernaut in the outfield, and if they stabilized that a while ago with Yasiel Puig and those that outfield play, then Andre Ethier, and if he would have came back and played well, these are the things where I'll say the Dodgers probably would have edged the Nationals. But the fact that they're shuffling guys in left field and right field, I don't see the stability there, and I think the Nationals is going to be a little too much for them.
So what about the American League Championship Series that you'll be doing on TBS? Suss it out between the Indians and Blue Jays for me here.
Well, that's going to be a great series. That's what we all wanted to see, but Pedro obviously wanted to see Boston. But I just felt like these two teams match up very well. The Indians got a couple pitchers that went down, but they may be having a couple of them come back. But the Blue Jays, their offense is so powerful, and they're playing in two bandboxes. This ought to be a great series, and this is something that I'm so looking forward to see. But I give the edge to the Blue Jays because of their bats.
They've been on fire lately after being asleep in early September, Gary.
Yeah, but the only thing Toronto have to be careful of is when you go out and this is what these guys was talking about at the game. When you're on that kind of a high, because they've been on a roll in the end of September, fighting for every game to get into the playoffs, and they took that momentum into the playoffs. And as you saw, big home run after big home run, these guys hit about 8 home runs in a 3-game span. And just to miss 2 or 3 days, it can set your offense back a little bit.
Gary Sheffield of Turner Sports joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. In a couple minutes left I have with you, Gary. You were the name that was most prominent when Tebow was getting in the cage and announced that he was trying out to try and become a baseball player. I mean, you definitely were the most decorated baseball name to come out and say, don't laugh at this. How did you get hooked up with Tebow, Gary?
Well, me and Tim have been friends for quite a few years. I go to all his charity events, and we always talk about, doing some goodwill and over in Haiti and doing things for the kids and changing people's lives and things like that. And then one day out of the blue, he approached me about baseball, and he did it in a class way where it didn't offend me like most people would think. And I said, let me look at you first, and then I can tell you my honest assessment. He said, I wouldn't want it no other way. I want you to be 100% honest with me because I know you will. And when I saw him take 3 swings, I saw the bat speed that I needed to see to say I will work with you. And now whether he's going to accomplish this or not, but he definitely has the bat speed and the swing to do it, because I always said what we're seeing now is what he may give you. You see a lot of strikeouts in this game, and you see a lot of home runs, and I think he can do those things.
Well, and as you know, Gary, I mean, I've known you for years. I remember seeing you. You were at the U.S. Open, the tennis U.S. Open. We did a cold open for a late night show together during an Olympic year where you ran in a fake torch with the tennis ball all lit up like it was a torch. We had fun doing that. Yeah. So I know that you're pure when you talk about this sort of stuff. I want to bounce off you, as you know, an NFL guy. A lot of NFL observers are like, why would Tebow want to do this instead of trying to stay in football as a fullback or a tight end? He refused to do anything but try and play quarterback. And now he's trying a different sport. It doesn't compute to a lot of NFL guys. Can you help me with that one?
Well, I understand that. I mean, every football player that ever played baseball, they all say, I wish I would kept playing baseball. And so for them to say that about Tim, and he's pursuing his dream, and he's doing exactly what they say they wish they would have stayed with, he's trying to do it now because he believes he can do it. And it's a lot of things that I told Tim is that there's a lot of things that you got to change about your body. You got to get flexible. You got all of that girth of football because it'll hurt your swing, and you can get injured playing baseball with all that girth on. So I just think that football players, just should give him a little time to figure this thing out and see how it goes.
Gary, love seeing you part of the baseball paparazzi. It's great to see you doing what you're doing on TBS. Love to have you back on throughout the playoffs.
Anytime, man. Always good talking to you.
Same to you. That's Gary Sheffield, 9-time All-Star. World Series champion here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.